LeBron was 16-8. It looked like he was 4 steps slower that game. And he said it himself. He said it himself in an interview. He said, someone asked him a question about being 100%. He said, 100% is impossible. I do not think I will be 100% ever in my career again.
The locks for the Panama Canal, the propeller for Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, rails for the Trans-Siberia Railroad. All were forged of Pittsburgh steel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Point, your one-stop shop for all things sports, straight out of IUP and brought to you by The Pen. Brett and I back here once again. Ton on the schedule today as we're going to dive into the Steelers draft, pull it apart a little bit. What was right? What was wrong? Did they do enough? Did they fill these holes? And are they prepared to make a run at the AFC North? Going to hop into Aaron Rodgers. We know he wants out of Green Bay. What does this mean? He's disgruntled. He wants people fired. Is he going to return? Is he going to go elsewhere? Raiders might be a potential pick, which is kind of weird with them having Derek Carr. And then finally, we'll hop into the NBA. LaMelo Ball, he returns just in time for the Charlotte Hornets to make a little playoff push here to hopefully get through the play-in tournament. And we're also going to look into the path to glory for some of the contenders. Of course, the Nets, Lakers, 76ers, Jazz. What does their path to glory look like? Who are they going to play? And realistically, can they beat some of these top teams in 7-game series? So bringing it all back around, we're hopping into the draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers, pretty strong draft that they pulled together here. That's what the analysts are saying. Just to kind of wrap it all back here, we got Najee Harris as a running back. We got a tight end in Pat Freiermuth. We got a center, offensive tackle, couple linebackers, a defensive end, and then just a single safety and a punter, which was quite surprising, but a really good move. So we're going to kind of pick apart some of these here. On Najee Harris, Brett, that was someone that you said that the Steelers had to get. They did it. They made everyone pretty happy there. And then they went and got Kendrick Green, a pretty much day one starting center, to fill that gap. And then we got Dan Moore Jr., who's an offensive tackle who was an all-SEC second team. He helped Texas A&M establish a lethal running game and a really good pass protection. So, do you think the Steelers did enough there with that offensive line? Do you think these 2 picks are enough? Or do you think that they should have kind of valued it a little bit more? Because they waited into the later rounds. Do you think that they kind of did well there with the running back and 2 offensive linemen?
I think they did. I think that's going to open space up for Ben Roethlisberger a lot more with a good running back. Well, we don't know yet. We hope he's good. And a couple offensive linemen. I think it's going to open up some space for Ben.
It definitely will, and they can hopefully push that 2-dimensional offense, which was really, really missing last year. So we'll hope. I don't know if it's enough. It's some good pieces, some 2 guys that can start, likely will start, but maybe one more. But they had some other pieces to fill. The big surprise was Pat Freiermuth, the tight end that came in the 2nd round. So this is another guy that might add, because he is a fantastic run blocker, no drops in the red zone in his entire career.
That's something that's good right there, RJ. Someone that doesn't drop passes.
That was something that we saw with the receivers last year. Even Eric Ebron, our tight end, lots of drops. So he could be a good 1-2 punch, that Freiermuth. A lot of people are calling the midi Gronk, the kind of coming in here and potentially building himself a legacy. Now, I want to switch over. We talked about the offense. They really value the offense at first here, Brett. But then we look at the defense. And they picked up a couple linebackers in Buddy Johnson and Quincy Roche. These are guys that are going to back up TJ Watt, Devin Bush, Spillane Highsmith. Good picks. I like those. But where we see a bit of concern is that they didn't really pick up much in the secondary. They picked up Trey Norwood. He was a safety, kind of a Swiss Army knife type guy that can play all over the backfield, which is great. But when we look at the secondary, there's a lot of inexperience outside of Hayden, Sutton, and Fitzpatrick back there. Even you could throw Terrell Edmonds in there, but he's still trying to get it adjusted. He's not really solid back there yet, but he did get better. Do you think that they should have done more? I mean, the defense is good. We have a really good, solid defense, but we have a lot of inexperience in the backfield, and they only picked up one guy who is fair. Do you think they should have done more there, or do you think they're just going to trust that, this guy will fill the spot that we lost, and we're good? Do you think they?
I feel like you can only pick so many people in the draft.
Of course.
And I feel like they did a really good job this year picking what they needed and all that stuff. I think we're going to do really well next year.
Yeah, they're going to put some trust into that defense. And I mean, we even acquired a pick from Miami. We traded a 2022 fourth-round pick to pick Isaiah Loudermilk, who was our defensive end that we picked up. So overall, really good draft. I would rate it an A-rated draft. I think there's a lot of guys here that can fill some holes there, some depth. The secondary is a little concerning if guys get injured, which tends to happen. Maybe there's some signings we could do. Maybe they'll pick up some free agent guys that weren't drafted, as we saw with Paris Ford from the University of Pittsburgh that signed with the LA Rams after the fact. So we'll see. Good draft. I think Brett and I agree there. The running game could be here. We got the offensive line pieces. We got some running back or the linebacker depth. And we'll see. It's a good draft. And Presley Marvin, the last piece there, our punter that we picked up. That's going to be really, really lethal for us, because when the offensive struggles, you got that punter to hopefully give you that big leg that Jordan Berry hasn't given us, and pin some teams and put take the strain off of the defense. So overall, I think Brett and I see it as a good draft. It's going to be exciting, and we will hope that these picks really do plan out. All right, so moving on to our second segment here today. We know that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. He's disgruntled. He is not liking the management right now. He wants GM Brian Gutekunst fired. He wants him fired. He's threatening retirement. And this would be the first time, Brett, that in NFL history that an MVP from the previous season did not return to his team. Now, there's a couple cases where guys retired, but this would be the first time that this ever happened. So there's rumors that he's intrigued about different team offers, but the Packers are adamant that they're not going to trade him because he's under contract. So he might just retire. So I want to bring this all into their recent postseason placements. I wouldn't really say success as much, because look at the year 2020, they were 13-3. They lost to the Bucs in the NFC Championship. 2019, they were also 13-3. They lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship. They didn't make the playoffs in 2018 and 2017, but in 2016, they lost to the Falcons in the NFC Championship. Do you think this is more so of Aaron Rodgers just not trusting that this team can get it done because they've lost in the conference championship the last three times they've been there?
If he doesn't like the GM, there must have been something going on with him and the GM. The GM does do a job of picking up players, but your star players should totally have a voice in every single aspect of the team. Like, if he's your best player, like, he should have aspect in every single say of that team. And some people just don't agree with that. And I think that's wrong. I bet that I don't know what happened between him and the GM, but I feel like that's a good assumption.
Yeah, especially a team that has not been able to get to the Super Bowl since they beat the Steelers back in, I believe it was 2010. Because you think the last three times it was to the Falcons, 49ers, and the Bucs. I mean, that's just tough to make it to that step, have these successful seasons, and just not get to that final piece. I think he'd be a little bit happier if the team had gotten to the Super Bowl a couple of times. That's a good point. Who knows what's gone on here? But what's really weird here is there are some rumors coming out that the Las Vegas Raiders might have some interest in Aaron Rodgers, but they have Derek Carr. Derek Carr is their quarterback. He's, turned into their franchise quarterback. They are likely to extend him to a contract, but apparently John Gruden has interest in branching out and upgrading. So that doesn't really make much sense. It's an odd situation that they would be open to that. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. Aaron Rodgers wants out. I think he's going to get out. I don't think they want to let him retire. I think they'd rather trade him and pick something up. But what do you think? Do you think you let him retire?
What you could do is just do the Gronk play. You could retire, then come back. It's a loophole, I guess, in the rules or something. You can just retire, not play for a year or two, then just come back.
Yeah, different case of Aaron Rodgers because he is older. He's approaching the upper age, and I think playing year in year out helps him stay sharp.
Yeah.
But he's mobile, one of the best quarterbacks year in year out. I mean, he won an MVP, so we'll see. I think if he gets out, it changes the entire NFC because we've already seen Drew Brees retire. If you see Aaron Rodgers go down, I mean, that just changes everything and opens the door for Brady. I mean, so we'll see what happens there. We will see what happens. Aaron Rodgers wants out. Keep your eyes on the news because this is developing, and we'll see if there is a change of scenery with the GM position in Green Bay or if Aaron Rodgers decides to hang it up. And finally, we're talking the NBA as we always do, and we're hopping right into how LaMelo Ball has returned. Charlotte Hornets finally get their piece back, which is much needed given that they're battling that 8-7 seed. They're going to likely be in the play-in tournament. They're still weak right now without Gordon Hayward. He likely could return by the end of the season, so that could be huge for them going into the play-in tournament. But, Brett, do you really see this as a team that is a strong opponent to face off against? Or do you think that they could fall in the play-in tournament just simply because they don't have the experience? They don't have the strong pieces.
I feel like they could lose in the play-in tournament. They're an iffy team. I don't think they're going to win. They're still developing. You need a couple more pieces. If I was in the playoffs, I would want to play the Hornets. The Hornets, I feel like most of the star teams right now could totally beat them in a 7-game series. Now, they would totally compete. You wouldn't sweep the Hornets. They would totally win a couple of games. But I feel like most of the star teams would totally beat the Hornets. So
it's a lot of progress for them. And that's what I think is to value this year is a lot of progress. But I want to ask you, what do they need to improve? Because, their road record is really what held them down. They were a strong home team, but they're holding games very close because they only have a negative 1.2 point differential. So they're staying even in these games. They're keeping them close, but they were just even. They're 18-18 versus the conference. What do you think they need, or is it just a matter of developing?
Great players. I think they just need a little bit more time to develop chemistry with their team. I don't really think they really need to pick up that much more. Like, they have such good players: Malik Monk, Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier. They're all great, and Gordon Hayward's going to come back. They're absolutely amazing. PJ Washington. They have great players, great role players. Any player could go off any night.
And they'd probably be in a way different scenario without Hayward and LaMelo going down. So, they're at that 500 mark up and down simply because they lost their stars and they're developing. So, but I do want to ask you, do you think that LaMelo should be still considered in the rookie race, or is it Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Haliburton?
Yeah. Anthony Edwards has a little more points than him right now, but LaMelo still is averaging more assists and more rebounds by a couple.
But even with him sitting out all of that time, because we've talked about how guys like, Joel Embiid being taken out of maybe MVP, LeBron James being taken out of MVP because they sat out for such a considerable amount of time. Do you think LaMelo's still in that?
Is like John Morant and Zion Williamson. John Morant won it because Zion Williamson, it was injured the whole rest of the year. LaMelo came back. That's the biggest difference. He's coming back to make his case for Rookie of the Year. And I think he's still a very top contender. I think they're the two front runners, and it's gonna be a tight one. It's gonna be a tight one.
And we will see how that pans out, but he's definitely deserving. And then finally, we're going to talk a little about the path to glory here and weigh in on what is realistic for some of our, the favorite teams, who they'll play on the way to a championship, and are they going to be successful? We'll hop into the Lakers right away because they're the talk of the town right now. We have AD is back, LeBron is back. And if we look at their path to getting to a championship, they're likely going to play the Nuggets, then probably going to have to face off against the Suns and potentially the Jazz if all of these seeds win out to get to the championship. So, Brett, is this really something that they can do, or are they weak?
It scares me so much. I love the Lakers. I think they're a great team. I love LeBron. They played the Kings last night. I know AD and LeBron's coming right off an injury, but if you look at a great example, Kevin Durant, same thing, coming off an injury, just dropped 30. Just dropped 30. LeBron was 16-8. It looked like he was 4 steps slower that game. And he said it himself. He said it himself in an interview. He said, someone asked him a question about being 100%. He said, 100% is impossible. I do not think I will be 100% ever in my career again, which is so sad.
That's a huge remark.
He might be jumping the gun on that. Of course, it's him. Like, it's his body. I trust that he knows his body. I really hope it's not true, but yeah. I'm guessing it is, since he said it. He said it himself.
He might just need a little bit more time. I think it was just a matter of,
if I was him, he could take more time off. Take more time off. Like, if you don't think you're 100%, take time off. You have the opportunity to take time off. You don't have to play against the Kings. You don't need to. You don't need to. You don't have to play 30 minutes. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
And it was surprising to see that in his first game back for him to play 32. That's a bit much, but do you
like, you didn't need to play. You didn't need to play. Like,
but do you see them then, like, facing the Nuggets, the Suns, and the Jazz potentially? Is this a team that can get through? Or
if LeBron looked like how he played against the Kings and he's not 100%, they're not going to go that far in the playoffs. Yeah. Like, they really aren't.
That's a scary outcome for them.
At 100%. Like, he like I said, I watched the game. I think he looked 4 steps slower. There was this play where he clearly got by someone right in the paint. He could easily dunk it. He's 6'8", super big vertical, just laid it up. Did not look like himself.
And that's not like him at all.
Yeah, that did not. It looked. I looked at it. I'm like questioning it. I'm like, what is he doing there? Like, and that was his play. He had some couple missed passes here and there. Like, it did not look good against the Kings, and that's why they lost. Because Braun wasn't at 100%.
So keep an eye. We definitely need to keep an eye on them, because they could determine their path to glory. But another team that we've looked at a lot here is the Brooklyn Nets, and their championship path kind of looks like they're going to play the Heat, the Bucks, who they just lost to, then the 76ers potentially as well. They have a lot of big questions about defending out of their top 5, which is, Harden, Kyrie Irving, Durant, Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan, that kind of their top 5. But there's a lot of questions about who is going to guard these stars. Who's going to guard Giannis? Who's going to guard Joel Embiid? Do you think the Nets are a little bit in a tough situation if they have to play the Bucks and the 76ers on the way?
Yes, they are. Just because any other team, you're probably any team with a very good big man, the Nets might have some problems with, because like no one can really guard them that well. Any other team they're going to do great in, but I think they're just going to outscore everyone. Even if Giannis gets 40-something points or Joel Embiid gets 40-something points, I think with Harden, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, once Harden gets healthy, they're unstoppable. They're going to be unstoppable. Like,
well, it looks like they're going to have to outscore, because we saw Giannis drop 40. We saw the last time they played the 76ers, Embiid dropped 39, and the 76ers scored 58 points in the paint. So that's pretty remarkable. Brett says that they can outscore them. I believe that they can, but if they let these players get loose, it could be pretty catastrophic. So Nets and Lakers, keep an eye on them. LeBron needs to get healthy. The Nets need to find a way to stop the top 1-2 players on these teams. And, if their path to glory is kind of in jeopardy right now. So keep an eye on these 2 teams, and we will see how these playoffs play out, because, your favorites might not be the favorites anymore. So keep an eye on that. All right, everybody, that's everything we have for you today on The Point. We dove into the draft. We talked about the A-grade potential that the Steelers have now. Aaron Rodgers what is what is his history going to be here in Green Bay? Is he just going to cut the cord and be done? Does he have a future? Is he going to retire? Let us know. And then we talk about LaMelo. We talked about the path to glory for the Nets and the Lakers. A lot of questions here. But on the end of LaMelo, there's a lot of positivity moving forward for them. So that's everything we have for you guys today on The Point. Let us know what you guys think, and we will see you next week.